Good afternoon and welcome to yet another episode of the Diary of a Lawyer. And today we're talking about the international context and international law in the issue around the hateful rhetoric, violence, and attack on Black Africans in Tunisia following the hateful speech and remarks that were made by the country's president a few weeks ago. As a brief background, around 2 weeks ago, an elderly authoritarian dictator made violent, racist, and hateful comments which echo the neo-Nazi and far-right bogus theories of the so-called replacement theory. And he aimed his diatribe to Black Africans who live, travel, or work in the North African country of Tunisia. And that man was Kais Saied, the president of Tunisia. He was speaking to the National Security Council in comments that his presidency later published online. And he said, quote unquote, the influx of regular migrants to Tunisia must be quickly ended. He went on to say that the undeclared goal of the successive waves of legal immigration is to consider Tunisia a purely African country that has no affiliation to the Arab and Islamic nations, quote unquote. Now, the country faces political and socio-economic upheavals, not since the days of the Arab Street or the Arab Revolution in 2011, so-called the Arab Spring, which has seen reported arbitrary arrests of opposition, critics, civil society, and as well as a ban on peaceful protests, which are provided for by the Tunisian constitution. Now, he followed his remarks by instructing his security forces to act against what he called irregular migrants. Now, following his speech, Black Africans were violently attacked, they were evicted from their homes, they were fired from their jobs, and many fled their homes to seek sanctuary in safe areas, mainly in their home embassies. The violent attacks led to swift condemnation from within and outside Tunisia. The State Department, the African Union, and the World Bank announced suspension of its work with Tunisia. Several countries, which include Senegal, Mali, Ivory Coast, Guinea, chartered planes that brought back their citizens. Now, since then, the Tunisian regime has attempted to issue statements to walk back the hateful speech that triggered the violent attacks, eviction, harassment, and loss of employment. It has also announced, paradoxically, some visa rules, relaxations of visa rules, but it's too late, and it's unlikely that these will be taken up. Now, the violent racism, mistreatment, and attacks on Black people of African descent in the Arab world and some other parts of North Africa include slavery, torture of workers, women, and other parts of the world, such as China, as we saw in the pandemic during the lockdown, is a growing practice. But what is deeply disturbing in this case is the formal announcement and fanning of the flames of hate, racism, and violence against a minority racial ethnic group by a sitting head of state, especially when using remarks that are associated with the so-called Great Replacement theory by neo-Nazi and far-right conspiracy theorists. Now, what is the position of international law in this case regarding racialized hate speech? Under international law, hate speech is specifically prohibited under Article 20 of the ICCPR, which is the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights. Article 20 of the ICCPR states that, number 1, Section 1, any propaganda for war shall be prohibited by law. Section 2 states, any advocacy of national, racial, or religious hatred that constitutes incitement to discrimination, hostility,